Italy may face increased economic pressure due to an ongoing standoff within the European Union regarding new debt rules. The 27 EU member states have been in disagreement over these rules for several months, aiming to simplify the process for governments to address their finances. However, the discussions have been protracted, and with upcoming European elections, financial ministers are under mounting pressure to reach an agreement in the coming months. David Wunglia, the director of European and Global Macro at TS Lombard, expressed concerns about the shrinking timeline, warning of the rising risk of a no-deal situation. This scenario could have adverse effects on the euro and potentially revive fears of fragmentation in the European government bond market, with Italy being particularly vulnerable. Italian bonds have been under stress lately, driven by global concerns about the prolonged duration of higher interest rates and the government's budgetary plans for 2024, which failed to appease the markets. The Italian government, led by Giorgia Meloni, reduced growth expectations for the Italian economy and raised budget deficit targets, resulting in a rise in the yield on the 10-year Italian bond. Analysts at Goldman Sachs suggested that the negotiations on fiscal rules might be delayed until the second half of the following year, given the upcoming European elections. The existing fiscal rules for European member states require adherence to a 60% debt-to-GDP threshold and a public deficit of 3%. However, these rules were frequently neither adhered to nor enforced by the European Commission. In 2020, the fiscal rulebook was temporarily suspended to allow member states to deviate from their fiscal targets and allocate funds for pandemic-related purposes. With the events of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the suspension of these rules continued due to new energy costs and inflationary pressures, but it is set to expire in December. In 2024, European nations will once again be obligated to comply with the rulebook, and there is growing pressure to reform these rules in 2025. Nevertheless, next year's political calendar may hinder reform efforts. If no agreement on new rules is reached, the stricter existing rules, currently suspended, will come into effect in 2025, potentially leading to more rigorous fiscal positions for countries like Italy. The question of enforcement remains uncertain, as it is unlikely that the EU Commission can trigger an excessive deficit procedure against any member country before fiscal rule negotiations are completed, according to Goldman Sachs analysts. An excessive deficit procedure acts as a monitoring mechanism for countries not adhering to required fiscal corrections. A compromise on fiscal rules is more likely to occur under the Belgian presidency in the first quarter of 2024, with the real deadline set for the end of March. This would allow the legal text to be presented to the European Parliament before the June 2024 elections, head of macro policy research at the Amundi Investment Institute. Will Italy cause the collapse of the EU? Thanks for watching.